Hello, everyone, and happy Wednesday. We are very excited to get a bonus episode today with Todd Harrison. He was so nice to come on. He's got an appointment later today, but appreciate you making the time, Todd. Good reminder for anyone who's out there. I know we always encourage people to ask questions, especially with this one, because we're going to try to keep the show relatively tight. If you have any questions, throw them in early so we can get to them. So just a little reminder there. And of course, we take them on every platform except for Instagram. So with all that said, Todd, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it. Appreciate the special bonus episode we got going on today.
Yeah.
I feel like lots to talk about in some ways. I know last time you were on, we were thinking, oh, we'll touch base next week, and we'll be on the other side of the rescheduling, sort of to some degree, or at least have a little bit more insight into what's going on there. And sort of this in-between time is sort of a waiting time, but it really hasn't been a waiting time. I feel like between scheduled stuff, like everything at the RNC, but then also, of course, everything that went on last weekend. There's a lot to talk about, I think, in general. So let's, I think, just jump straight into it. What was the experience like for you last weekend? Where were you? How'd you get the news?
When the news hit, I was sitting down to dinner at Nick and Tony's in East Hampton with my wife, our son, and his girlfriend for dinner before a reggae festival.
Nice.
That was my wife's agenda, but it was fun, and we sat down, and at first it was a bit of a shock, of course. Somebody at the table next to us said, what happened? And we told them, and they said, it's too bad they missed. And I was like,
yeah,
what a horrible person you are. Like, it doesn't take a political affiliation. I don't know. But nonetheless, so, let's talk about what it means for cannabis, right? He surges in the polls. I think when we spoke last time, we were talking about the potential for a Biden replacement, considering that he was really out of favor. Mm-hmm. They were talking about Kamala and potentially bringing in Andy Beshear, go younger and more diverse. And then we sort of speculated, well, what's young and diverse as an issue? Cannabis, they can kind of steal that thunder. Mm-hmm. I think the political calculus shifted after last weekend, after the assassination attempt. I don't think anybody wants to run against Trump now because they're going to lose more likely than not. I think. I mean, we're still 3.5 months out. But the writing seems on the wall. Picking J.D. Vance, younger, guy, that side of the aisle feels pretty empowered. And not surprisingly, we walked in yesterday and cannabis was down, right? I mean, it was sort of the knee-jerk Trump 1.0, Jeff Sessions. This is what we got. This is what we'll get. Mm-hmm. We don't believe that to be the case. And suffice to say, anything could happen because nothing has happened yet. And even if something happens, everything is subject to change. But the president is a fan of states' rights. That's where he landed on abortion. He went out of his way last night at the convention to talk about sort of unity. Mm-hmm. I know of only one substance in the history of mankind that has been uniting civilizations for thousands of years.
Sure.
Sort of fits.
Yep.
And it's certainly going to help with the minority vote. And I think with a lot of the centrists who, believe in the issue, which is 91% of our country. You add in that the swing states, Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania, even though Pennsylvania, the odds went down, still possible, but the odds went down. And then you look at it through the lens of, and you say, as an American industry, this should be banked in the United States banks. It should be listed on United States exchanges. This employs 500,000 Americans. They should be afforded protections. There is human trafficking going on through the illegal, illicit networks. I mean, this is all, and then of course, states' rights. This is all, right down the middle of the GOP fairway.
Yeah.
So, for what it's worth, which is probably not much at this point, our sense is that worst case will support Schedule 3 and states' rights. Yep. We think there's a shot that, as I said, he takes an opportunity that is his for the taking, and and takes the fumble of the Democrats for the last 4 years and says this is a U.S. industry, this should be listed in U.S. banks and on U.S. exchanges, and even saying that, say it should be states' rights, but it should be in the banks and it should be on the U.S. exchanges. That's all anybody's going to ever remember when it eventually happens, and it's going to eventually happen.
Yeah.
So it's all right there. Now, how does the events of last weekend influence the timing? I don't know. My first thought was like, I mean, other than, I hope he's okay and all that stuff. My first thought was like, maybe he doesn't need it as much now, right? Maybe this is it. Like my column last night, the Trump card. Maybe this is the Trump card that he saves if things get a little tight or if he needs certain states. But I don't think it's all that controversial. And I don't think, I think, we talked last week about the wall of worry, and there were 10 things. I actually wrote a column last night that went through each one. And it's not all like, cream puffs and powdered sugar. Things are going to take time. There's going to be nuances. It's not everything's going to hit. Be surprised if it was a clean sweep across all of the things we talk about, but we're going to get a number of them. And I do think the biggest is a friendlier position from the GOP, presumptive GOP nominee, I guess, still.
No, I think he is officially the full Republican nominee. Oh, not the Democratic nominee. Okay, that makes sense.
Is it? I thought it happens at the end of the convention. I don't know, but my point is he's the guy.
Got all the votes. Yeah,
he's definitely going to win. He's 70% polling. I know Hillary was 70% polling once upon a time, but I think that real damage was done to the trust of this country. Even leading up to the Biden sort of dementia and devolution. Age is unbeaten. You can't, what I'm saying? If that was my grandfather and he worked at a taxi stand, I'd be like, Grandpa, come on, man. Like, you're fucking up the addresses. Just come hang out with me. Let's play Monopoly or whatever it is. Let's enjoy the rest of that. I'm just being honest. If it was somebody that I loved, I would say, and he was a taxi stand driver, I'd say, let's get Grandpa someplace more comfortable. Right? Like, it's not a slight. It's
just recognizing reality. Yeah, I definitely agree there.
And the fact that this was the thaw, like aghast. Oh my God, I can't believe that. Like this is exactly who he's been, and it's unfortunate. But as I said earlier, it looks like it's going to be Biden, Trump. That's what the polls are saying, and it looks like Trump for every 3 Biden voters, Trump's going to get 7. So. You got to play the board, and that board is shifting. It's interesting to hear names like Eric Schmidt for Attorney General, who's very pro-cannabis. We've heard some other names for Attorney General who would be very pro-cannabis. And obviously things like Speaker of the House and, Senate Majority Leader, if we do flip red, those things will matter. Like Steve Daines, a friend. There's a handful of friends. Where they land, I think will go a long way. But as I said earlier, I think Sully from Cresco had said, talking to all these guys on the Hill, like, are we going to get safe in the lame duck? And they all said, talk to me when it's not a Schedule I drug anymore. So
hopefully they'll be talking soon. We'll see.
Right. So if we get Schedule III, August, September. And then we get safe, and we get a Garland memo, that all of those things we talked about in January, February would have happened just as we predicted. Maybe not as
quickly
from a price standpoint, but I don't think much of it's priced in.
Yep, I've seen a lot of that.
So it's a show me situation in a show me sector in a show me world. Yep. And as we see now, that's, there's no guarantees that we don't have things like a constitutional crisis or a geopolitical flare up or something that's going to take the attention away from our little corner of the universe again.
Yes, I agree. Well, again, I feel like it's good and comforting in some ways that the risk that a lot of people are focused on from a political perspective of Trump or the Republicans taking it seems much less of an issue now. I know even, Don Murphy being boots on the ground there, saying that he would not have been there or been a delegate even if Trump wasn't sort of pro-cannabis, or at least is able to somewhat embrace it. So I think that is very encouraging. I agree.
And we saw the article. I found this from 2019, how pissed off Trump was when Jeff Sessions pulled the Cole memo.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, say what you will about the guy in his personal life, or, that's not what I'm looking at. I am looking at politics through the lens of how it's going to affect our industry, full stop.
Yep.
And I think, no, let me correct that. I really do feel like we've been snookered, right? The Democrats have used this as the carrot and the stick for 4 years. Yes, if we get rescheduling, as I think we will, that's a pretty monumental achievement, but it's, sort of like a token one-off in a world where you could have had all these other things along the way if Cory Booker didn't lay himself down, if Chuck Schumer didn't try to virtue signal. And again, I'm an independent. I can't stand liars, and I feel like that's all we've gotten for the last 4 years.
Yeah, I think unfortunately that is to some degree the nature of politics. Not always, but I think unfortunately that has been the rule. But that's fair. I think you're able to not want to accept people who are lying to you. I think that is totally valid.
Yeah, Brian Mast, who's I guess co-chair of the House Cannabis Caucus, sitting with Donald Trump right now. And listen, for what it's worth, I've spoken to a couple of people close to Trump who tell me that same things, that it's not as, I think the fear, I said, people are scared to death. They think Jeff Sessions is going to come around the corner and say, boo. He says, that's not this. Okay. So we'll see. I think when it finally happens, it'll be nice to, kind of check that box, but there's other issues and other concerns. We have earnings coming up. I mean, there's plenty going on.
Before we quickly move on from politics, just one kind of last final thing. I do feel like I've seen, again, post the assassination attempt, with him picking a younger VP, all of those different things, that there does seem to be sort of not a resignation, but sort of saying Trump is going to get it. He has these swing states. He's going to claim it. That's it. But I think ultimately they're still relatively close. It's not a total blow out of the water just yet. It's still early. And technically it's ahead of the DNC in late August. So hypothetically, even though Biden has been saying he is going to push ahead, and that's how it's going to be, that could change. How much are you accounting for sort of like if the Democrats are able to either change up their strategy, change up anything, or just somehow come ahead in the polls, or not the actual polls?
I think that, again, I don't know who steps in there given, the bullet, he turned his head, the bullet missed him by millimeters. There's a picture of the bullet flying by. There's a picture of him with his hand in it.
That picture is crazy.
I'm just saying, like, if you're a Democrat, are you going to, I don't think this is a bad expression, but shoot your load in 2024? Is that bad? I'm thinking of a gun, not a.
I got it.
Or you're going to save your ammunition for 2028 when you could actually have a legitimate process and a real potential desire for change. I don't know. But I guess if JB does bow out, and I think he should, because I don't think he is capable at this point of being the president that this country needs. I think he was at a point in his life. They agree or disagree with his politics. He was functional, lucid, rational, at least to a degree that you could finish a sentence and not call the vice president Trump.
Yeah.
But I think the best chance the Dems would be, again, to shake up the ticket, throw out Kamala, bring in Andy Beshear, would be good for cannabis. But I don't know what they would do against, a ticket that seems to have a lot of momentum at the right time.
Yeah, that's true.
See. Right. Again, I'm not playing politics. I'm just trying to play the board.
I think, again, it's just kind of exploring the options and the opportunities, just because I think you were talking about the Democrats have been using it kind of as a carrot and stick a little bit. And I wonder if they were able to maintain, and again, that doesn't count for the House and everything like that, but if they're able to maintain the presidency, if they're able to push things further along, or if they just maintain. Just curious to kind of get a sense of that. But again,
and what does it look like? Is 280E gone, right? Because that changes the game for the operators. I was talking to Jason Wild about the price action. He's like, well, that's the thing. This isn't just sizzle. This is steak. This goes through and it changes the MO. We see teams go back on offense. I would argue we'll see a lot of consolidation. And, economies of scale will start to kick in. And that's before you start talking about the CPG of, like for a long time, it's been a circle of cannabis companies looking around and saying, hey, maybe you, or maybe you, or maybe you.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say now is you'll turn around. The whole world out there, a lot of partners, gene pool's much bigger, right? And a lot more money.
Yep.
So like, when does that flip? We'll see. But I've got to think a combination of Schedule III safe banking and a Garland memo would go a long way to help to facilitate that, if that is what we get.
Yes, I think that perfectly sums it up. All right, perfect. And then we'll move through, let's see, 5 days out from the end of the comment period. Any thoughts in terms of what we see? Do you think we see a lot of volatility falling that day? Do you think we see it sort of be quieter? I know it's still in the summer. Any thoughts on, do we see like a sigh of relief that it's done? And I think we've gotten a ton of comments. A lot seem positive. What are your thoughts on?
POTUS, I saw, not POTUS, but somebody posting for President Biden. I'm making sure no one goes to jail for mere use of possession of marijuana, and their record should be expunged. It's time to right those historic wrongs. Yeah, you had 4 years, Joe. And oh, by the way, Donald Trump has expunged more cannabis records than you have. And that's our friend Weldon Angelos, right? He commuted those sentences. It still follows you around like freaking Samsonite luggage until you commute those sentences. So he's had a long time to do it. He's gotten nothing done, with the big asterisk of Schedule III. And I'll tell you, Donald Trump, all he needs to say is, hey, Joe, I expunged more records than you did. Commuted more sentences than you did anyway. So what's it all about? But the issue's here for the taking. And again, Donald Trump, he pardoned Weldon Angelos. Like he's not the devil. He's not, and I asked somebody, or not me, but somebody on the call asked somebody on his team, do you think that because of the history in his family and the alcoholism, that he might be reticent to support this? And the response we got back was, they sell alcohol at Mar-a-Lago, don't they?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I agree. And plus, I think honestly, if you're also using it you could use it in a medicinal way on top of using it as just recreationally as well. So I feel like
there's a lot of education that, I'm telling you, we send notes and notes and notes. A lot of the time that we're not, on X or Nooners, is about compiling educational data notes for people on the Hill and just trying to get them the information they need, because we have the tip of the spear. Weldon has access to anyone. It's just who do we need to get to and what do we need to say?
Yeah, that's true. Pushing that education out there. Well, again, good on you and good on Weldon definitely to be spearheading that, which is awesome. Let me look through the comments really quickly. All right, nice. Jane's in the mix. Love it. Yes, Todd is still rocking the clean shaven look, which is great.
Does he saying that I'm a sociopath and a psychopath?
No, he was talking
shaved.
No, he was talking about the person you were sitting next to at the restaurant when they were saying, wish it had gotten. Don't worry. Good. That would have been quite a look. No.
Yeah, that sort of my whole family was like, what the fuck? But that's what you get in the Hamptons. You get those types of tools, especially on the East End. No offense.
That's fair.
You know, I think also,
that's fair. I think also people stop viewing politicians sometimes as people, which I don't know, whatever. It's easy to get caught up in that, I guess. But all right. Well, you mentioned Weldon. I did want to touch base on that because I know there's something coming up on Thursday. Would love to hear about it. What's going on? Where it is?
Yeah. So his documentary, and if you have it, it's called Unlikely Allies. If you Google Weldon Angelos documentary, you'll see it. It's pretty awesome. And it's going to be a screening in New York City, hosted by PharmaCam for all the New York card holders to help talk about all the efforts that are being made to get people out of prison, to help to try to get the roundup mechanism that he and I have been implementing across different operators. We're trying to get that into the foundational network of New York City cannabis, so that when you buy cannabis, you could round up and be the change you hope to see, get people out of jail for cannabis. So that's going to be on Thursday. We are expecting some surprise guests, maybe some music, definitely Weldon, and definitely some of the people who helped him along his journey. And if you look at the documentary, you'll see who I'm talking about. But it should be good, and there will be live, I guess, due diligence, taste sampling, things of that nature.
Sure.
Which is always nice.
That's exciting. Are you going to be tweeting it? Are you going to be kind of showing people what's going on there? Or is it basically we'll have to debrief on a Nooner
I
post?
haven't thought about it. I'm sure there'll be some pictures, and I'm sure we'll write about it. This documentary, oh, by the way, should be on HBO later this fall.
Okay.
And I hope you won't get mad at me saying this, but the option has already gotten picked up to be a live movie, the story of his life.
Oh, to like make, rather than a documentary, make a movie version of it.
Really turn it into an actual feature length film, which is exciting.
Who's going to play him? Have they picked that out? I guess you're not able to say that,
who's going to play you, Mackenzie?
that's a great question. You got to be in the mix too. It'll be good. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, perfect. And then also I feel like a great place to have it in general. I know I saw on your Substack yesterday the whole story on New York turning around. So that feels like it's hopefully turning a corner. I feel like
it's starting. It's got a long way to go. But I think it's, I was just having this conversation with an investor. We have 5 states on the ballot, plus you have New York, which I think is going to surprise some people as they continue to crack down. You have Minnesota, which will probably take some time, but is a pretty massive state. Pennsylvania missed the opportunity yesterday to get into the budget, but my understanding is there's another month or 6 weeks. They could do it in November. Whether or not it gets done remains to be seen, or if it gets kicked to next year. But with Ohio and I think 6 of the 7 states that borders Pennsylvania is legal, if that's the number, or 5 out of 6, whatever it is, all but 1. There is motivation there. And then obviously the big kahuna down in Florida. Mm-hmm. So, all of that, should be make for an interesting November. And then we'll see. We'll see if they can get the farm bill done too, but we don't sense the political appetite to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's going to be a crazy 2024, not that it hasn't been crazy years before, but exciting. And it does feel like hopefully things are lining up. Again, everything doesn't go 100% smoothly, like you're saying with Pennsylvania, unfortunately. But it does seem like things are lining up, which is great. All right. Well, I will say enjoy your appointment. I know health is key and important, but thanks for taking the time. It's kind of fun to kind of check in general, and then we'll have you on next week as well, potentially, which will be exciting on the other side of rescheduling. So very, very excited to have that conversation, and just excited to be through the comment period in general. I feel like it's been such a wait for like, come on, it's almost there. The 5 days down, and we should be almost there. But thanks again. Really appreciate it, everyone. Thanks for being on, and we will catch you tomorrow. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mac.
Before investing, carefully consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses found in the prospectus, available at AdvisorShares.com.